This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it. I couldn't do this last night, not because I'm emotionally overwrought or anything weird like that. It was just simply I needed time to gather my thoughts. And do you know the biggest concern I had is who am I actually talking to? Who is clicking on this stuff? Because I think the bulk of you get it, and I totally am with that. I didn't ever set out to do this to have 50,000 subscribers. I'm more interested in having conversations with people who weren't dropped on their head as a baby. That's where I'm at. That's the direction we're going in here. But there are still people, despite the relegation form, still people. Oh, cheer up, mate. If you want, and this is the polite version, right? This is the polite version. If you want banal, just something to fill your day, or little puppies with ribbons and all this nonsense, there's loads of junk channels about this football club out there. Go bother them. Go settle in, buckle up and enjoy the coma. I don't get angry, but I get very frustrated that there still exists, despite all the evidence, all of the coherent arguments that I've brought to you, forget anybody else, all of the stuff that isn't up for debate, there are still people out there drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, the business with the boxing the other night, I watched the fight on an illegal stream. I wait for the police to arrive. Call the cops. I watched the fight, and the amount of cooing over, oh, it's our stadium. Oh, they keep saying the Tottenham HOTSPUR pathetic, absolutely mind-blowing that people actually believe that people exist in this form. So if you're part of this cult of stupidity, then please, please, please stay away from me. You're not going to deplatform me. Many have tried. Nobody has ever succeeded. You're not going to change my mind, and you're not going to embarrass me or cajole me. All I've been spitting at you for years are facts and the truth. And all of this was totally predictable. I told you a couple of weeks ago this was relegation form, and still people are ignoring me. I sound like some lunatic on a crusade, and I don't do crusades. Crusades are expensive and they invariably don't work. But it would just be helpful. I see the tide is turning. I absolutely see the tide is turning. But the pressure needs to be brought to bear, not just upon the infrastructure of the club, and by that I don't mean the fucking capital assets and all this nonsense, but I mean the cretins that are out there, the noisemakers, the barkers. So all of these other channels that are selling you lies, fibs and hope, we need to abandon all hope and start looking at this, employing critical thought. Now, I know that may come as an absolute anathema to you, but trust me, if you don't, it's only going to sting all the more worse later. It took 72 days to appoint Nuno. So let's just ponder that for a moment, shall we? Let's forget it's about football. Let's think about that you want to get the right dress to wear to a party, or you want to buy the right house, or you're going to choose something. Anything that takes you 72 days tells you that there's no thing on the market that wets your whistle, that gets you going. Or what you do want can't come to you for reasons beyond your control, such as you can't afford them. It took 72 days to appoint this schmuck because we were busy talking to other people. We were busy getting doors slammed in our faces. Levy actually had to come out, bless him. We're being linked with people we've not even had conversations with. Do you know what, mate? You're describing the water as we drown. I've got unfinished business. I am flabbergasted that so many people who, in perhaps other sectors of their life, are regarded as intelligent, rational human beings, fall for this spiel from this guy. 88 days later, and Nuno has officially collapsed under the strain. Now, I've been quite vocal about his pressers and the fact that football needs to feed us and he needs to do his job, and part of his job is talking to us and telling us. But he's now actually deteriorated into mumbling about what he will say and what he won't say. And I've got a very short reply to that. Nobody cares, old girl. The jig is up. You hold no secrets that have value to any of us. We know everything. 1-0 at Man City. 0-1 Wolves. 1-0 Watford. Hooray, we're going to win the league. Except for one goal. What was it? One goal in open play? I can't remember. And they ship in 9 goals, score 1. Concede 9 goals out of 6 games. And throw into the pile while we're at it a cup game where we concede, we throw away a 2-goal lead. And we've had to start playing our best players in the 3rd tier of European toy town football. Stats on the players and the team so far, I've got dozens of them, but I don't want to bore you with those at the moment because this clip is about asking you to change the way you think. Looking at the Arsenal game, it was painfully obvious, painfully, desperately obvious that we should have signed the Japanese fella. Tomiyasu, unlike our junk signings, has arrived, stepped off the plane, and he's Premier League ready. That guy was a delight to watch. That guy was like watching Sonny when he first started playing for Spurs. And I mean started actually because he took a while to warm up because we were playing him as a striker. He wasn't a striker. He wasn't a striker when he was in Germany. But he really hit this sort of curve, this sort of uplift. And this guy has done it from the moment he's arrived, or within a couple of games of it arriving. Those that have told me to cheer up, and those that prefer watching the Spectrum brothers waving Levy out on pieces of A4 paper whilst maintaining season tickets. That's a bit like that's like being a vegan, but you wear your grandmother's fur stole because you really loved your granny. You're either in or you're out. We're talking about wholesale doubt here, which has now been confirmed. It's not like, oh yeah, we'll see how we get on. Wholesale doubt about the fundamental business model here. This isn't just general griping. As recently as the Palace game, there were those mumbling about giving Nuno time. Should he be given more time? Based upon what evidence? Based upon the same feeling an exhausted parent has when their baby begins crying for the umpteenth time for no discernible reason. Maybe it just needs to cry itself out, and anyway, I've double-checked absolutely everything, and if I don't sleep soon, I'll be crying too. There's been so much disruption, just let things sort themselves, blow themselves out. Give him time. To what good purpose? Nuno was suspected from the very off. Nuno out trended when his name was first mentioned. So this isn't my invective. Nuno was suspected of not being the right stooge for the job. And after a small but convincing sample group of games, it is less a feeling of suspicion and more now a burning conviction. I appreciate what he's been attempting to do in his pressers, but even that hasn't worked. So now it's time to worry not about the optics and not about the cosmetics. And please don't bother me with any insights about the players. I've heard it all. Look, page after page after page. The fact, and this has stuck with me. I didn't go back and check, but the fact that on the morning of a North London derby, Spurs community had 2 pages of people putting up who their starting 11 was going to be, their plausible 11. That just tells you everything. People are fed up to the back teeth of trying to keep the morale going. The players are shot, and this is the size of the problem, and this is the whole point I'm talking about. The size of the problem is so big, you have to change the way you think about this problem. Poch was their pal, and that didn't work. Jose told them to wake up, and they didn't care for that. Ryan Mason asked them if they fancied popping around for a barbecue. Most of them said yes. The real issue here, and this is where you need to really pay attention, and I don't mean to patronise a single one of you, but if you don't pay attention, then just please switch this off and go and listen to the other clowns mumbling, because the mumbling is giving me headache, to be quite frank. The real issue here is that we embarked upon a path upon which no other successful football club in the world has ever embarked upon. And this has hampered the core business of the football club. And there's still people, oh, look at all the lights. What an amazing stadium. You are descended from people who pointed at birds and pointed at aeroplanes. And now you are pointing at light bulbs. The thinking at Tottenham is now so unforgivably flawed. Levy brings in Bale because to him it makes us look as if we're at the top table. It's a temporary deal which bleeds us dry, which doesn't achieve anything unless we're playing pub teams. Those are facts, by the way, not my interpretation, they're facts. Manchester United, they bring in Ronaldo because he's still an absolute assassin of a footballer. And they bring him in on a proper deal. The time to protest meaningfully was before the lane was demolished. I'm going to read that again to you because some of you are a little bit slow on the uptake. The time to protest meaningfully was before the lane was demolished. I'm glad we're all clear on that. I won't be suffering any more demeaning bedsheet-based talk from activists. Speaking of which, if you wanted to attack ENIC, and I don't mean liaise with them, or have biscuits and tea, but if you wanted to attack them, skin them and clean them and eat them, the time to have done it was before they demolished the lane and in conjunction, in concert with an effective and sane supporters trust, opposed to a quango of lefty Bash Street kid lookalikes who can only communicate in Klingon. If you're looking at the current train wreck from the conventionally blinkered position one normally stares at football clubs from, then you won't be able to even begin to address the problem. And this is that you've got to change the way you think. This is a headache that an aspirin won't soothe or improve. This is a catastrophic brain trauma we're talking about here. Levy out is a commendable ambition, but the grim reality is it has about as much punch as daubing "butterflies are pretty" on a wall. Equally, the voices in the head of some fans that think Eddie Howe or Graham Potter, who've achieved nothing, could solve this puzzle, they also need to be summarily ignored. These are the traditional routes. Well, who would you bring in? We're beyond that. Is that confusing to you? Tottenham are as damaged now as they ever have been since 1882. And please, this is not a prompt for dum-dums to ask me if I saw us play in the 90s. The illusory, nasty, horrible, big, beardy, Jufro Alan Sugar doesn't exist in the real world. You've invented a bogeyman. Who cares if he was a force for good or a force for bad? Who cares about Irving Scholar? I'm talking about the last 20 years that we're still stuck in. And it's these sort of unimaginative fridge magnet slogans that people wheel out. Oh, careful what you wish for. Did you see us play in the 90s? It's this clogged up, dated way of thinking that has us staring at this mess and still getting no closer to an answer. ENIC have set sail, and turning their ship around isn't a phrase in their instruction manual. Daniel Levy is like far too many CEOs that we have all encountered. They get a source of income that is too good to be true, and slowly but surely they believe themselves to be the smartest guys in the world. When you need Daniel to say he's screwed up, he quizzically tells you he has unfinished business. When you need Daniel to apologise, he blames Brexit or COVID. The solution to this is staring us in the face, and it's nothing other than a good while in the football wilderness. The Paratici myth that so many bought into has been utterly exposed. Michael Bridge from Sky Sports nailed it yesterday. When you don't have one summer signing in your 11 against your rivals, something isn't right. Hashtag NLD. All of the pontificating and the wishful thinking and the frankly embarrassing bedwetting over the mediocre players that we've brought in, who are all cheap. And Romero, oh yes, number one defender in Serie A. So why hasn't somebody big signed him up? He wasn't expensive. He's arrived here. He has yet to be fully fit. It's been weeks. We're paying £200,000 a week for Tanguy, who is completely knackered after about 40 minutes. Brian Gill, I think I put a note in about him somewhere. It's just so depressing. It's so depressing. The fact that, excuse me, so many of you have bought into this absolute guano. Yeah, and before anybody pipes up with a yeah, but before Brian Gill, did he give it a go? He was quite Any thoroughbred coach of any experience would have told you that was not a game to throw that kid into. Before more cosmetic retouching, which is called changing the manager, can be regarded as any more than an aspirin for this catastrophic head trauma, the squad needs a complete revaluation, which means zero tolerance on the utterly mindless hope. So stop talking about Dele Alli getting back to where he was, because he never was there. Curiously enough, I had a conversation with somebody during the game yesterday, and I put out, God knows, 18 months, 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago in actual fact, because it was well before COVID, posts on Dele Alli identifying, analysing his game, that he increased his activity before and just after half time. And on average, we got half an hour's worth of proper work out of him per game. And I was shouted at from every single quarter you can imagine. Yeah, but he's a quality brings, the work, the assists, the goals, the miles he puts in. And it's all gone like that, the line on the graph. He is now officially a time waster. And if you hate this, you're going to hate the next tape as well, because I'm going to go through all of the squad and I'm going to give you the blow by blow of how worthless they were. This lot, I don't know how your minds work, but we need to change the way of thinking. Harry Kane, don't worry about him being distracted by Manchester United. Worry about your ability to analyse, to actually comprehend what's in front of you. This squad, most of them, don't give a for the club anymore. And it's all down to the boardroom. Like I always say, I've said it 100 times, the culture, the face, the characteristics of a business do not come from the boys playing cards in the loading bay. It all comes from the board. The squad needs a complete re-evaluation, which means zero tolerance on all the utterly mindless hope. I can't say that enough times. And all of these places online, Reddit coys, absolute disaster, packed full of millennial Americans. Oh gee, I love the HOTSPURs. Time wasters. Your opinion has no currency, not valid at all. People hanging on every word of Alistair Gold as he's spoon-fed erroneous information by the press officer. Your opinions have no purchase in these discussions. There was a fluff of people. There was a video doing the rounds of Papa Sarr running in a game, and I thought, oh, if there's some clips to be had, I'll have a look. If because I don't think the guy's a total disaster. His numbers are pretty good. Nothing offensively, nothing defensively. And people just go, oh, he looks really good. We should get him in before next season. It is incredulous that people are actually posting this stuff on public forums. Papa Sarr isn't going to save us. Brian Gill isn't going to save us. Emerson Royale, who quite frankly looks every bit of the 7.8 million quid Barcelona paid for him in June of this year, he's not going to save us either. And if Ramiro even, ever bothers to get fit, he's not going to save us either. So there you have it, a stark realisation that had you employed some critical thinking a good while ago, then none of this would have come as such a shock. As I say, there's numbers galore doing the rounds about where Tottenham are in terms of shots on goal, chances created. It is all relegation form. Sure, we're only this far into the season, but Nuno has now lost the power of speech. Extraordinary. So, what's the plan? I'll break it down to you. You waited 20 minutes. I think you deserve an answer. The plan is you remove your money and you stop spending. Yes, some tourists will take your place in the stadium. Some tourists will start buying merch, but not in the way that you did, not in the volume that you did, and not in the committed way in which you did. It's very easy to pass the buck, and like I say, the Spectrum brothers, oh, Levy out, have you got this on film? Yeah, we'll do it as a watch along. And you're buying season tickets. Who are you trying to kid? Please. It's not even disingenuous. It's just daylight fucking robbery. The way to do it is to force the hand. Levy doesn't listen to social media as much as he ought to. Although I agree with him to some extent, because it's only 20% of the planet. But we need to turn the noise up and get Nuno removed. I don't care who comes in next, because it's academic. If you want to opine, if you want to write 5,000 words on how Eddie Howe might work, or how Graham Potter might work, or listen to morons who are inventing stories about Conte still unconvinced of the project, be my guest, but just don't bother me with it. Don't post it on my blog and don't post it on my wall here. I will bin you, flick you into outer space. You need to step back. Still watch Spurs. If you have the ability to keep a straight face, tell people you're a Tottenham fan, but keep it away from ENIC. Don't fund them. The more pressure that is applied, the more chance there is of something happening in your favour. And the only thing that can happen, incidentally, because, and I made this point and people giggle at me because I say, oh, we can't behave like Marxists. You can't storm the board. The Supporters Trust have disappeared up their own orifice since their lists of demands. Let's think they were in a Die Hard film and we want a seat on the board and $1 million and ice creams and pizza, but no anchovies, and absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time. And they can't even speak properly. So withdraw your support from ENIC, not from Tottenham. You're not going to take anything away from the players. The players saw the fans streaming out of the Emirates yesterday. They're more than aware that the fans have had enough. Most of those players in their hearts of hearts have had enough. It is time to force change as much as it can be exacted in a meaningful sense within the law. So leave your bed sheets on your bed, put your crayons away, and we don't need any watch-alongs of protests. Thanks very much. Don't renew things. Don't renew your tickets. Don't renew your one HOTSPUR. Cut them off at source and see how long the tourist money lasts. Because I tell you for something, the tourists will go along to these games and the atmosphere is flat because you, the proper fans, the fans that go there to sing and scream and shout and stomp and get involved for 90 minutes, if you're not there, that will make a massive difference. We're in dark times. I told you a couple of games ago, and don't give me, oh, you what you wished for came true. I've been banging on about how flawed this business model was for a long time, and what we've seen in the last fortnight is this awful coming together, this perfect storm of the cooing over the boxing, the third-party events, and the malfunctioning, waste of time, doesn't ever win anything football team. But I look forward, and I'm zero tolerance now, zero tolerance. I'm not going to entertain anybody who hasn't got their brain switched on. So if you want to post something daft on here, you'll go the same way as the blog goes. into outer space, like the internet dandruff that you are. This is, if you want to call it a safe space, that's cool, but this is going to be a place where people with half a brain or more are welcome. So I'll say to you again, good luck, and despite them, keep it Tottenham.